Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, as we showed there, is in the US. She's attending annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, G20 finance ministers and central bank governors.
She has met with the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to discuss issues of mutual interest, asked in the United States about what India is doing right to perform relatively better than other large economies. Let's just listen in to what the finance minister had to say.
Well, one didn't anticipate the pandemic, but it's been an attempt by the Prime Minister to, with a great deal of energy, to push the digitalization of the Indian economy. Since 2014, the effort had started earlier also, but the pace at which we tried covering various sectors of activities, getting the optical fibers, going into the panchayat level, making sure that people were able to access it and so on, bringing it into their daily lives. So digitalization started in right earnest 2014 onwards. The growth priorities will be kept absolutely on the top. Even as I speak about the concerns that inflation brings before me. So inflation concerns will have to be addressed, but then how would you manage growth would be the natural question. But that's the point of, being sure how you're going to be able to balance the two and be sure that the momentum that Indian economy has got coming out of the pandemic and the momentum with which it will grow even the next year, even as per the very many multilateral institutions which are observing India, cannot be weakened. So it will have to again be a very carefully structured budget in which the growth momentum will have to be sustained.
Before the pandemic hit, which increased India's resiliency through the pandemic and might have longer term payoffs. Sticking with the short run for the moment though, it looks like India is going to have a pretty good 2023. But there are lots of risks out there. It's a very turbulent world we live in. And as we think about the last couple of years, I've been struck by some things about how India has done, which are a little atypical relative to the past. In the past, India was not able to take advantage of a worldwide recovery with exports, and we've seen exports growing very fast. Private sector investment has been doing very well, which again is something that has tended to lag in some of the previous cycles. So there are some very positive elements about the short-term prospects. On the other hand, there are some issues like employment growth, where there is a sense that the economy is not really generating as much as it could in terms of employment. And as we think about connecting the short term to the longer term with all the favorable demographics that India has, perhaps this is an area where one might need a little more effort. But let me pose to you a more general question. What do you think are the risks over the next year or two? And in terms of these, minor tweaks that could even further improve India's short-term growth performance, do you have anything planned?
You're right in highlighting that there are a lot of risks, and all of them I would, in a very generic fashion, put it as extraneous to Indian economy. They're all things happening outside which are definitely hitting us. And we are every now and then understanding the intensity of this and responding to it. Energy, fertilizer prices. Energy, not just the price, but also the availability. The risks to sourcing of energy. All these are challenges which are not in the medium term, not in the long term, but also in the short term. So these are energy, fertilizer, are all becoming expensive. As a result, in some parts of the country, not so much for us, there is severe food insecurity.